Hello everyone. This is a video that's been kind of last minute made here just due to some recent developments over the last couple days and some important things that are happening in our hobby, and some potentially very unfortunate things. So a few days ago the news broke that Atlas's model railroad plant in China was closing, and this meant that they were not going to be able to produce any new models at this time, and a lot of it was mostly affecting their rolling stock and locomotives. But as it's turned out over the past 3 or 4 days, this factory that's closing is actually a lot more extensive and involves a lot more companies. This is kind of an industry-wide issue that's going to affect. So I'm going to go down through the list here of affected companies by this closure. So it's Atlas, Intermountain, which by my understanding, Intermountain actually had the majority of their production from this facility. Also Fox Valley, Hubert's Kits, which are also made by Intermountain, Lionel and MTH, Bowser, Concor. So many or most of those companies have already publicly acknowledged that they're going to have delays in upcoming products, which they're not really giving time frames, but we'll get into that a little bit later. A few companies have come forward and said that they are not involved or won't really have any delays because it's not their facility. Scale Trains, Athearn, Rapido, Accurail, obviously because that's a US-based company, so they don't have that problem. But those companies did publicly acknowledge that this was not one of their production facilities, so they're not affected by this closure. We still don't really know about Walthers. However, I don't think they're going to be involved with it. Bachman, I'm not sure about, and kind of the big one out there is Broadway Limited. So not sure if those three companies are going to be affected by this closure at all. So getting into a little bit here about it. What this is going to actually mean to the industry. So not having a facility to produce your models and then being forced to get another one in the current landscape of things in China, or really in any country, is going to take several months. So, I mean, I'm sure that these companies are probably already starting to look through that and trying to find another facility to produce their models. It's probably going to be something that's going to take them a couple months. Potentially on the long side of things, it could be possibly as long as 6 months to a year before these companies are able to start actually producing models again. So what this is going to mean is that a number of things actually, most of the releases that we're going to see by Christmas aren't going to be here now. So you're probably looking at summer to this time next year for a lot of those models now. So they're not going to be out on time. So um, for some of the affected companies, like MTH, we really don't know whether it was listed as MTH's O scale production or their HO scale production or possibly both. O scale could potentially be hit very heavily because Atlas, Lionel, and MTH are all part of this closure, which are all the major players in O scale. So O scale could be hurting big time. N scale should be relatively minimally impacted because really the only major player there is Atlas and Fox Valley. Some of your bigger N-scale producers such as Cato are not affected by this closure. Scale Trains also is not affected, and they've been producing some N-scale items as well. So N-scalers are probably going to be pretty well off compared to some of the other scales. HO, it seems like we're going to be probably about half and half. And O scale could be hit pretty heavy. Furthermore, for the Christmas season, a lot of your hobby shops now, they may not be getting any more inventory after their next couple shipments here. So by Christmas time, a lot of them could be looking pretty empty, depending on which businesses that they actually work with. Because not every model train shop is going to sell Walthers or Scale Trains or Athearn. That's something that they have to have those agreements in place to sell those things, and not every hobby shop sells the same brands of models. So you're probably going to see a real lack of product also online. So a lot of your online retailers are going to be showing out of stock on a lot of items, and it's not going to change anytime moving in the future. So if there is any models that you were thinking about buying, that were already announced or already out, such as like Intermountain Tier 4 Gevos. If those are something that you wanted and you still know of a place that still has them, I would suggest buying them up now, because you don't really know how the eBay landscape of things is going to turn out over the next couple months. Eventually may turn into an issue where people are scalping them online and selling them for way higher than what they're actually worth. So what you can do at this point to try to minimize this impact would be to support your local hobby shops, and, not necessarily now, but months from now, more than ever. So if they have anything there that you actually want to buy or something that interests you, I would highly encourage you to do so, because a lot of these places are not going to have product to sell. So it's going to hurt them big time, probably more so than the actual companies that produce these models, because they don't, I mean, they're going to be back up and running at some point, and then they're going to be delivering all of the things that they already had pre-orders in for. So in the long run, they're just going to have another factory that produces their items. So, I mean, there's going to be a short-term hurt for them, and they'll be back up and running again. But for hobby shops, they're not in business where they can go without a profit for 6 months. So it's going to hurt them a lot more. And really with that too, go to your local hobby shop and buy an AccuRail product. They're made in the United States, so they don't have this problem. I mean, that's really your best case scenario, so I'm going to do that as much as I can. So how did this happen? So from my understanding, the individual that owned this plant, either due to health reasons or age, just basically decided that they didn't want to run it anymore. And their younger family members weren't interested in running it, so it just closed. It's sort of idiotic. The entire industry basically has all of its eggs in one basket, and that's kind of dangerous, because had a natural disaster happen or something like that, like tsunami, earthquake, fire, this would have happened anyway, regardless of any input from mankind. We also don't know what's going to happen with the tooling. So a lot of these facilities have the tooling for different model companies' products. So unless the tooling is actually in like a CAD file or something like that from an actual manufacturer, a lot of toolings may be lost. Because from what a little bit I've read, that in China, when a business closes, basically the whole facility is inaccessible, and individual companies may not have the rights to try to get back their intellectual property. So hopefully these companies actually have a local United States copy of their tooling, or at least the files to produce it again. If that's the case and a lot of these toolings are lost, we may not see a lot of these models come back to market for not just 6 months to a year. You're talking several years, because it costs a lot to produce a tooling for a model. And some of these companies have been working and revising those for decades even. You look at like the Atlas Dash 8s. I mean, they're pretty much the only company that does those and does them well. So if Atlas isn't producing them, who else is going to? One of the questions that always comes up a lot is, well, why don't you just simply move the production back to the United States and you won't have this problem? Well, the United States labor is a bit more expensive. It does kind of bother me that we can't find some way to produce models here in the United States. I mean, AccuRail manages to do it, and their quality is excellent. And for $15 to $20, you can buy a kit and build a freight car. I don't understand why other companies can't do this, and it can't possibly be that much more expensive to produce a locomotive here in the United States. It's just plastic and metal. The labor costs, are not tremendously more here than what they are in other places in the world. If it's been done before, it can be done again. However, in model railroading, with the exception of maybe Lionel, most HO scale production has always been done overseas. Bachmann has always done things in China, Yugoslavia, Malaysia, a couple other places. I think some models were produced in Hong Kong. So international production's always been a part of model railroading, so that's probably not going to change anytime soon. But yes, it would be nice if it was produced here, but it's probably not going to be, mostly because of greed. You look at a company like MTH, their yearly revenues are about $30 million. They're surely not paying their staff this money. And you can look this up on Wikipedia. I mean, the information's already out there. So I think they have probably less than a couple hundred employees at tops, and they're not spending that money on labor cost for sure. So you got to wonder how much of that money is being invested back into the business, and how much of that money is just being pocketed by Mike Wolf. So there could be some better distribution among these companies, and some of these CEOs that have started these companies, and basically they're just pocketing all the money, and nobody that works for the company or anybody that produces the models is getting any of the money. So perhaps part of the reason that we don't see production here in the United States is simply because people want to make a tremendous profit on it. They don't want to do good, but also treat their people good as well. So that's just my take on it there. And you can disagree with the politics of that as much as you want. That's your opinion to do so. But I do want to bring this information out to you here, and just let you know that if you do have a lot of models on order from some of these affected companies, you're probably not going to see them, at least anytime soon. So that's it for this video. If you have other information or comments, leave it in the section down below. And also, please hit the subscribe button. I'm getting very, very close to 1,000, so I would like to see that hit again there. So that's going to be it for this one.